Always trust.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Is that going to be?
This weekend, elections in Turkey. Millions of people go to the polls to elect a president and a new parliament. It's the first time since the referendum last year, when the people approved a new constitution giving more power to the presidency. Today on Talk to Al Jazeera, we discuss what President Erdogan hopes to achieve if he wins a new term, in a conversation with a spokesperson. But first, another contender for the presidency, the leader of the Saadet Party. He says President Erdogan is not doing enough to unite the Muslim world abroad and is moving the country to a dictatorship at home.
Mr. Temel Karamollaoglu, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you very much.
Traditionally, you and your party have been allied with President Erdogan and the AKP. What is it that's made you peel away from this alliance in these upcoming elections?
Well, we did not peel away from them. They peeled away. They left us. They left the principles of Erdogan and started a new course for themselves. The principles are completely different. We give a lot of importance, for example, to ethical values. And secondly, we give a lot of importance to economical and technological development. And thirdly, we have a different dignified foreign policy, what we call, and we try to establish an Islamic union as well. Now, they have left all of these goals. They said that, no, we are going to join European Union. European Union is our ideal setup, and their values is important for us. And secondly, they accepted the United States and Israel as their strategic partners. And thirdly, they decided to adopt the capitalist system wholly without thinking about the actual development of technology and industry in our country.
So you say there is no common ground between you and the AK party, but you are now in collaboration with the CHP for the parliamentary elections. What is there? Where is the common ground between you and the CHP?
First, we have decided to come to pass the threshold. Secondly, the new system, presidential system, is going to lead Turkey to a dictatorship. There is no doubt, because the parliament has no influence on the president. They can't control, they can't produce any values which will be effective. So the president, in fact, will decide whatever he thinks proper without consulting the parliament. This is the basic thing. I mean, in a country, if you want peace.
But the people chose a presidential system. This isn't a system that's been imposed on the Turkish people. There was a referendum, it was free and fair.
Yes.
The people chose it.
No, it was not free and fair. First, let us decide on that. Even if
I mean, according to observers, it was free and fair.
No. Well, you can. Well, we did not say anything oppose whatever the public have chosen. But the point is that public can make mistake as well. It will be too late when they realize what the dangers are there and what they will face.
Okay, so the sheer common ground between you and the CHP is that you believe that
separation of power.
Separation of power.
And the government should not have any influence on justice, on the courts.
Okay.
Today, the government directly controls and gives, in fact, orders to the courts.
To the judiciary.
You can't have justice in a world like this.
I want to ask you about some of the other policies, because although a lot of the discussion in these presidential elections has been about separation of power, has been about the dangers that many of the opposition parties believe the presidential system poses, you have, for example, the candidate of the CHP, Muharrem İnce. He's vowed to send back all Syrian refugees within 100 days. He's promised to appoint a Turkish ambassador to Syria, whose government has killed hundreds of thousands of people, including Turkmen. Are these policies that you believe are shared common ground between the Saadet Party and the CHP?
No, we are not in a coalition. They have a different agenda. We have a different agenda. The only common ground is on the separation of powers. On the other agenda, we don't share.
So a marriage
our
of
view.
Convenience.
Yes, well, that's true. When it comes to Syria, well, from the beginning, I can say that the Turkish AKP government has a foreign policy which does not have a stable goal. They have always supported the American policies. They have always given importance to, unfortunately, to Israeli policies, Zionist policies as well. Seemingly they are very brave and they can criticize Israel in every field. They can accuse them as being a terrorist state. But the decisions they have taken and the Turkish relationship with Israel improved tremendously.
I mean, right now it's not improved. You're talking about the past few years. There's been very difficult situation. It was only recently that the ambassadors were returned.
Let me tell you one thing. I believe in the trade agreements. Our trade has increased tenfold with Israel. And the pilots who are bombing Gaza is trained in Turkey.
So
this is an important issue. No one takes notice of this. Israeli planes who are bombing Gaza are trained in Turkey. Can anyone grasp what this means?
It's a very difficult concept to grasp because what a lot of people see is the Turkish aid that goes to Gaza. They see the statements made by Erdogan, for example, when the US declared Jerusalem occupied, illegally occupied Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. So how do you justify this? How do you explain it?
Let's analyze all the points that you put forward. One, helping the Gaza Strip. Is blockade there? Yes. Still, the blockade is continuing. Gaza is an open-air prison. Did the Turkish government do anything?
I mean, there's...
No. I mean, we can put forward a lot of questions, but I am asking very clear questions. Those pilots who are bombing Gaza are trained in Turkey. Blockade is still there. What excuse our trade with Israel is improved? We are giving full support when it comes to Jerusalem. I mean, such a misleading attitude is put forward in this case that what the Islamic organization, the
OIC.
Muslim countries, OIC came together, the decision they have taken, what did they say? 16% of Jerusalem belongs to Palestine.
East Jerusalem.
From the other side, what it means that 84% belongs to Israel. No one takes notice of this. And of course, they can't do anything, but the Palestinians are thankful because this issue was carried to the United Nations. To what effect? Nothing. Just a criticism.
So you believe it's just propaganda from...
Just a propaganda. That is nothing else. All the policies. Americans destroyed Iraq. For what reason? Because they accused that Saddam had nuclear weapons. At the end, they could not find any. They said, we apologize, it was wrong. 1.5 million Muslims were massacred in Iraq. Who's responsible? Isn't the policies of the Turkish government has any responsibility in this?
So you're saying that under Erdogan and the AK party, they have become closer to the United States, closer to Israel, and they want to join the European Union. If you were in power, who would your allies be? What alliances would you build internationally?
Exactly. Now, first, whether some people say that, well, what happens if you bring the weak countries together? But still, we believe the unity of the Muslim countries. We have first the 8. These are the countries who have larger populations.
But sorry to interrupt here. You have Muslim countries that are actively working against Turkey.
Yes,
you have the United Arab Emirates, you have Saudi, you have Egypt, you have countries that actively are working to damage Turkey.
I know. This happened in the past as well. Only if there is a mind which is determined to correct the mistakes that the countries are making. You have to hug them. You have to bring them to a table and discuss the matters, what the mistakes they are making. You must show them that the decisions they are taking are wrong. But this is not achieved by quarreling with them, fighting with them, going to war with them. The Muslim world is burning all over. I mean, we have to see what is happening. We have to try to bring them together so that we shall solve our problems ourselves. If the Americans or the Europeans or Israel interfere, we will not be able to come together. They don't want us to come together. This is a will that we have to put into effect.
To be fair, in the past 10 years, Turkey's leadership role regionally, specifically in the Muslim world, has increased dramatically. 10, 15 years ago, no one really cared what Turkey's policies were, to be honest, internationally speaking.
I know.
So that is something, but that is something that you have to accredit to the government.
No. We have supported the United States in Iraq.
That is something, but
Yeah.
you're talking about leadership role in the Muslim world.
What positive decision the Muslim world has taken, tell me, because of Turkey? One decision, tell me.
I mean, they would say that those supporters of Erdogan and the government will talk to the work that Turkey has done in Somalia. They will talk about the interference in Myanmar and the massacre of Rohingya Muslims.
Let me tell you this. Aid is different. I agree. Turkish government, I mean, when I criticize the Erdogan or Turkish government, I am not saying that they have not done anything. Of course, we agree that they have given a lot of support to Somalia. They have given aid to other countries, other places where the Muslims are suffering. I don't reject that. But the point is, this is just aid. This is not a policy which will bring the Muslim countries to stand up on their own feet.
Let's move back to domestic issues for a second. And Sunday's elections, they're not only for the presidency, they're also for the parliament. And now, while your collaboration with the CHP is only on the parliamentary election front, you are nominated as the candidates of your party for the presidency. The CHP, as I mentioned, have their own candidates, Muharrem Ince. Now, considering the Saadet Party failed to get even 10% of the votes in the last elections, the last parliamentary elections, that is, do you really think that you personally stand a chance of winning the presidency?
There are some rumors that certain tricks are prepared. We don't know what will happen. You know, when you take part in elections, you go there to win.
Needless to say, President Erdogan has a different view from the leader of the Saadet Party. Just hours before the polls open, we sat down with one of his leading advisors and spokesperson.
Now, those who claim that the new system will be some kind of an authoritarian autocracy, one-man rule, etc., should study political history and look at the examples of other presidential systems. Why should the presidential system in and of itself be a one-man rule? If you look at, for example, how much power American presidents have, it's not any different. Or you look at the French model, which is semi-presidential, or look at other countries where you have presidential system, like in Mexico, Argentina, Indonesia, Russia, and other countries. So in and of itself, the presidential system cannot be called an authoritarian system. In fact, if you look at the model itself, the full separation of powers, judiciary, executive, and legislative, in fact, that is fully separated in the presidential system.
But your opponents say that the judiciary isn't separated from power. One of the reasons why they say they're running against President Erdogan is because they claim the government now controls the judiciary and the judiciary acts according to the whims of Erdogan.
No, to the contrary. In fact, the judiciary used to be dominated by kind of a more secularist type of judges and prosecutors in the past, and we have many examples of this. And then what happened in the last 5-6 years, until a few years ago, the Gülenists infiltrated the judiciary, what we call the FETÖ people. They put their people in key positions of the judiciary, prosecutors and judges and members of high judicial councils, and they were controlling the judiciary. Now, we have eliminated the Gulenists from the judiciary. In fact, if you look at how the judicial system works in Turkey, they have their own, impartial and free position. They make decisions every single day on, thousands of cases, from criminal cases to political cases, from civil suits to many other things. So they are independent. In fact, within the new system, presidential system, they will have more independence because the members of the high councils of judicial system will be appointed by the president as well as by the parliament, but also with members from the judicial bodies themselves.
So why do you think the narrative, especially in Western media, international media, is that actually, contrary to what you're saying, Turkey is moving towards this authoritarian regime or system of governance?
I think most of the criticism that you get from some Western media outlets and some commentators is based on a total misreading of the political realities in Turkey. They are very selective, they are very partial. In fact, you will call them political activism rather than really serious journalism. To give you a couple of examples, some commentators in the Western media predicted in almost every single election in the last 10 years that Erdogan was about to lose. They advocated the opposition candidates, which is fine. If that's their position, that's fine. But they fail at their predictions every single time. Erdogan has entered almost 14 or 15, I think, general local elections and referendum over the last 14, 15 years, and he has won every single one of them. The vote on Sunday is not going to be any different, according to the polls that we have and also what we see on the ground. We've been campaigning for more than a month now. We've been throughout the country, in all the major cities. I mean, we see the crowds on the streets, and their aspirations, their expectations from the government, from the leadership. It's very clear that he is set to win this election as well. Now, if winning is a crime, then he is, he's
Guilty.
He is guilty. But that's a faulty logic, obviously. Just because he keeps winning, it doesn't make him an authoritarian person.
We spoke to Temel Karamollaoglu, who is a candidate for the Saadet Party. Obviously, they come from the same school of thought of Necmettin Erbakan, who was a mentor of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He says the reason why he's contesting the presidency against Erdogan is because he believes Erdogan and the AK Party, your party, have shifted away from the morals and principles that you once claimed to adhere to, and have gone off in search of essentially kind of ultimate capitalism, away from the principles of social justice, as were the underpins of the AK Party, the Justice and Development Party.
Well, I can only laugh at these claims because if you look at the issues of social justice, no other political party or leader has done more to raise the level of living standards of ordinary citizens, low-income people in Turkey than President Erdogan over the last 16 years. You can see this in the economic growth of the country. Turkey was only a $250 billion economy in 2002 when Erdogan took over. In fact, he took over in 2003. And now Turkey is an $800 billion economy. GDP per capita was about $2,000 or to $2,500 or so. It's about $11,000 at the moment. You look at the business opportunities, look at the big investments, the FDI coming into Turkey, and so on and so forth. I can give many, many examples, from health to education, from infrastructure to roads, hospitals and airports and seaports, tourism, in all walks of life. Turkish economy has expanded. Turkish society has moved up in many areas, and ordinary citizens, which make up like the vast majority of the Turkish people in the rural as well as urban areas, have benefited from this equally. In regards to issues of like shifting Turkey away from traditional Western alliance or other camps, we've seen this argument over and over again.
Oh no, he's accusing you of going too much to the Western alliances, so too much to the United States, too much to Israel, and shifting away from the Muslim world and your traditional regional...
Yeah, and others claims that Turkey is moving away from the traditional Western alliance. So, you cannot make everybody happy, obviously, but from, say, that particular point of view, let me say that, again, Turkey has done more for the causes of the oppressed people in the world, not just Muslims, but also other people, than again any other country in recent history. I mean, look at what Turkey has done in Somalia. Look at what Turkey has done in Palestine in regards to Al-Quds, as well as in Gaza, but all Palestinians. Just remember, President Erdogan, who is the president of the OIC, the term president, had 3 summits under the OIC, one regular and 2 extraordinary summits. And the 2 summits were about Al-Quds.
On that, if I can interject, because I want to give you a chance to respond to this specific accusation that came from Karamollaoglu, who he says that that you use Palestine as some sort of electioneering tool in order to gain popularity, that actually relationship with Israel has improved, the trade between the 2 countries has improved, and actually that President Erdogan and the AK Party doesn't care or don't care about the plight of those suffering in Gaza under blockade, about the illegal occupation. What's your response to that?
It's completely unfounded, baseless accusation. In fact, this is election time rhetoric, really, just polemical issues. I think the facts are very clear. Turkey has done more in terms of providing humanitarian aid to the Palestinians, not just in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, in Al-Quds area. We have raised the issue of Al-Quds at the international level after the Americans decided to move their embassy to Jerusalem. Turkey has done more, has called for extraordinary summit and mobilized the international community, and had a historic success at the UN General Assembly. Remember, 128 countries voted against the US decision. And in the second voting, again, there was overwhelming majority supporting the motion that we put together with the Kuwaitis and the Egyptians and the Jordanians, I believe, to reject the American decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, but also in regards to what happened at the border in Gaza in May.
Yes.
And now we have succeeded in calling for a protection force for the Palestinians themselves. So now the Secretary General is mandated to bring an action plan to the General Assembly in regards to how to protect the Palestinian civilians. This has never happened before in the entire history of the Palestinian cause. And this is thanks to this mobilizing force of all the countries that supported it, Muslim countries as well as European, Latin American, and other countries. And President Erdogan played a single-handedly heroic role in mobilizing the international community. If this was just an election investment, why should he take that risk? Because that puts us against, some prominent countries of the world, such as the United States, Israeli lobby, etc., that keeps attacking President Erdogan on every single issue. So you cannot call it election investment. It's a genuine support, and I think this is proven over and over again.
Finally, if President Erdogan wins in the first round of these elections, what steps will he take in order to allay the fears, or at least to prove wrong those who claim that he is continuing or embarking on this authoritarian, dictatorial pursuit of, one-man power over this country?
Obviously, it takes the 2 to tango. You cannot expect just the president or the government to do X, Y, Z, and that will allay all the concerns. I think other opposition parties will have to do more to bring different segments of the society together. We understand it's election time, it's hard campaigning, we understand all of that. But come June 25th, we wake up to the new political scene with the parliament and the presidency, etc. I think everyone should have a role to play in normalizing, relations and the sentiments in the post-election period. Of course, President, again, will do his part as the president of the country, as the president of every citizen in this country. He has never discriminated against the citizens just because they didn't vote for him. No one can claim that. I mean, look at the services, look at the social justice issues, etc., investments, and all of that. He's never discriminated against anyone. But if you look at the discourse of other political parties, I have some concerns about some of these issues. Again, this deepening of this polarization. If you vote for us, that means peace. If you vote for them, that means war. That kind of language. We never use that kind of language. It's
certainly going to be an historic election with the whole world watching the edge of their seats. Dr. Kalin, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
My pleasure, Jamal. Thank you.